Now, I really am very grateful and honoured to be here tonight, and from your invitation to help celebrate this 25th anniversary of the award of the Chevening Scholarships. It's 25 years globally. I believe it's 20 years in India since the first was awarded here. And the British Council and the Foreign Office strong support of this scheme. It's hugely valued by the university sector internationally, and I feel privileged at Imperial that we've been part of this scheme for a long period of time. And we're so well aware from direct practical experience that many of the Chevening scholars who come to Imperial go on to enjoy hugely successful and influential careers throughout the world, and contribute very, very significantly to the links between India and the United Kingdom. There hopefully will be further initiatives in this area, which may be announced when the Prime Minister of India visits the United Kingdom later this year. And we're always looking for opportunities to coax the Foreign Office and various companies to expand the Chevening Scholarship Scheme. Now, from the British Council point of view, just a very warm welcome to Ruth G on this very first day of an important job. It's not easy, obviously, on your first day to not only have the task of getting to know everybody in the office, but also have to introduce these vagrant visitors who appear every now and again. Now, to turn to the topic of this lecture, higher education is a huge international business. Education to the British economy as an export industry is probably of the order of 15 billion per annum, which is perhaps bigger than things that the British government thinks is a greater contributor, such as the financial services sector. Now, that's education in the very broadest sense. Higher education itself, if you take the university sector, is probably 5 billion to 8 billion, somewhere in that domain. So it's a very significant business. It's undergoing at the moment very significant changes for a variety of reasons. The first one is obvious, and for all of you, it is the interconnectedness of the world today. If you think about communication, it's instant. You can access via the web scientific publications very quickly after their publication date throughout the world. You can access information about people so easily. Google is the most extraordinary search engine, although of course there are others that are equally good, so I'm not just advertising Google. And of course, as we're beginning to learn, the internet and access to the web has its pluses and its minuses, and Google certainly is at the forefront of exploring the pluses, but also the minuses. In other words, it enables them, if unregulated, to track your personal interests in a great deal of detail, and indeed your personal context. And undoubtedly, in the coming years, I think internationally, we will be thinking very hard about whether there is some form of regulation required, likely to start with, of this huge information base. Just recently, I've seen the most extraordinary use of web access site information in trying to track internationally the swine flu epidemic. Because when you have a worried parent or a worried individual, probably the first thing they do when their temperature rises is to get onto the web and hit the site, what are the symptoms of swine flu? And so the number of hits per site over time and over space actually mirrors the spread of the epidemic extraordinarily well. And in other domains, a variety of internet companies are offering information tracking of a very, very sophisticated nature. For a worried parent, perhaps, who wishes to track where their daughter or son is on a particular evening out. And so this instant information access is changing the face of higher education in many ways. And I'll come back to this in a minute. If we think about, and I'm going to talk about what makes a world-class university. John Kennedy, as president in the United States, said that America's first great leaders were also its first great scholars. And one could see internationally that higher education does provide, in so many different countries that are going through phases of development, it provides the intellectual leaders of those countries who take forward the economy and the information access. Chevening scholarships open doors for both tomorrow's leaders, but they also open doors very significantly at the graduate level for tomorrow's innovators. And they offer very highly qualified and highly motivated students an opportunity to work within the world's leading universities, and I'll come back to what is a leading university. And of course, the most important aspect of this, you have the opportunity to experience teaching from world authorities in their domain, people who are right at the front of their particular research or academic discipline. And in science and medicine and engineering, you can roughly summarize knowledge explosion that what happened in the last 5 years is equivalent to the previous 50, is equivalent to the previous 500. In other words, knowledge explosion is extraordinary, and therefore the need to be taught by somebody who is at the front of a particular field is ever more important in today's world, and those individuals typically are within, on average, the world's leading universities in high density. But aside from study, it's worth emphasizing other aspects. I'm very much struck, I talk to a lot of students each year in a great diversity of settings, and I'm very much struck by the international nature of these students today, much more so than when I was a young man. When I was a young man, I had to struggle to persuade individuals to send me abroad. We didn't have gap years then. Nowadays, you find students are hugely well travelled, they're hugely well understanding of different cultures and societies. And in essence, this international mobility is of great value to all societies, because during this period abroad, you have the opportunity to make friends across nationality, cultural, faith system boundaries. That promotes international mobility and understanding, and I think it's hugely important. So it's not just the academic study that's important about universities, it's mixing in an international culture with people from a diversity of backgrounds. And we live in a world today where we must find mutually acceptable solutions to virtually every issue that we face. The one that, of course, is uppermost in our minds at the moment is climate change. We have forthcoming the renegotiation of the Kyoto Accord in Copenhagen, with different countries having very, very different stances. And India, for example, has a particular stance because it is a rapidly growing economy. Its emissions are high, but by comparison with Western Europe and North America, its emissions are extremely low. And therefore, any attempt by the international community to cap by some penalising regulatory system, of course, will be fiercely resisted. Many countries, China included, regard climate change and international regulation as a threat. I must admit I take a very different view coming from Science and Technology University. I view, both for India and China, that actually climate change is a huge, huge opportunity. The technologies at low cost that will enable one to tackle both carbon capture, the next and future generations of photovoltaics, the opportunities for the development of those technologies that in India and China are extremely high. And I think I'd take a stance, if I was your government, this is a personal view, nothing more, I would take the stance, let's look at the opportunity. I remember a long time ago when I was quite a young man, I was a scientific advisor to the British government, sitting on the Prime Minister's Science Advisory Board. I was very young and very frightened by the Prime Minister at that stage. It was Margaret Thatcher, who had a reputation for eating young men and casting them aside, or handbagging, I think was the phrase. Margaret Thatcher had a green period before something else intruded to occupy her mind, namely the Falklands crisis. And she asked for a report from science advisors about cleaner technologies, and was there anything, this was in the 80s, remember, well before climate change was fashionable, whether there was anything in these scientific rumblings and mutterings about rising CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere. The report that was written, that contained academics and industrialists, its first paragraph said, cleaner technologies are an extraordinary commercial opportunity for the United Kingdom. In other words, every threat carries with it an opportunity. And I think India and China, with their huge intellectual capacity, must view their role as contributing to the solution, not arguing against regulation. And contributing to the solution, of course, is innovation in low-cost technologies.